And hi everyone, welcome to Life Edge, because life shouldn't be mediocre. I'm Rick Zanotti, and I'm joined today by my good friend and co-host, Dr. Susan Nash. How are you, Susan?
I'm really happy and glad that you have the surfer music for our 100th episode.
That's right. You said you like surfer music. We put it on for you.
And it's perfect because our guest is from Southern California.
He is, and his name is Ali Gooyabadi. He is the president of California Miramar University and the CEO of iValue. Here we go. This show is sponsored by Relate Corporation at www.relate.com, your training and video partner. And we are back with Ali Gooyabadi. How are you, Ali?
Very well. Thank you for asking. And how are you guys doing?
We're doing great, and we're glad to have you on the show. And you've got some interesting things to talk about. Susan, would you like to continue?
Well, absolutely. So I was really pleased to meet Dr. Gooyabadi, President Gooyabadi. And there are two things I'm really fascinated by: the leadership components of the university and what he's doing, but then also the elements of his personal training, that program that he has developed that helps people actually get an edge in life. So I'd like to talk to you further, maybe a bit about university and your mission.
All right. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for everyone. I would like to take this opportunity and say hello, and I guess congratulations on your 100th episode.
Thank you. Thank you.
Obviously, our university, we're a very small university, and we are catering to a very specific group of people. These are individuals who are working usually and are interested to enhance their skill set, so to be able to keep up with the ever-changing situation in this life where nothing stays the same and technology seems to be going much faster than universities can catch up with. So graduates, as soon as they graduate, they need to be educated again, and it seems like the way to the future seems to be more of corporate universities than the regular universities. So we're trying to fill that gap and trying to provide hands-on, value-based education to our graduates so that they feel they have been empowered to be able to perform well in the workplace.
That's really interesting and exciting. What are the specific courses that are most popular?
Obviously, even though people do come in usually hoping to be able to go through our MSCIS and learn about computer and computer systems in empowering innovation within any organizations, a lot of interest have been shown in our MSSL, meaning Master of Science in Strategic Leadership, and obviously MBA in many different areas. We do have a very healthy 52 strong DBA population that are working in different areas related to business management. So we're very much geared toward Industry 4.0, meaning Revolution 4.0, and also Education 4.0.
That's great. Now, you're an engineer by trade, correct?
Yes, sir. I started in engineering, electrical engineering, and moved my way through business world into becoming an entrepreneur, and then finally, I guess, retired into a professor which manages a university.
That's great. You kind of did it backwards. They all start as professors and go in the other way, but this is good. And it's interesting. You know about engineering, so what do you think, aside from the fact that we're not graduating a lot of engineers, at least in this country anymore, computer science is obviously very big in today's day and age and getting bigger. And I like the fact how you combine that with strategic leadership. That's different. And how does that work for the students?
in reality, what makes us different in USA than anywhere else in the world is the fact that this is the home of innovation, and major corporations usually have something to do here. And Silicon Valley, and here also in San Diego, which is called the second Silicon Valley. In reality, nowadays, the world has become very flat. It doesn't really matter where you live any longer. It just matters, how well connected you are and in what particular corporation you work. Some people say it doesn't matter what country you work in, because most likely that you work for Republic of Amazon or Republic of Google or Apple. In reality, that is the case. Today, the owners and the stakeholders of major companies are deciding what people do and where they live. And obviously, when you're paying $5 an hour in India to get something done, you would not be paying the engineer here for $50, $60 an hour. It just doesn't make sense. You won't be able to stay competitive. And as such, engineering has moved all over the place, depending on the economy of scale, on the economy of geography, and issues such as related to particular culture in a particular country or region of the world. And as such, today what matters is how do you manage all these disparate, culturally different group of people in trying to stay competitive and produce results that are sustainable and are competitive in this market.
Yes.
Did I address the question you?
I think you did. Yep.
Posed?
Absolutely.
And that's what makes us different. To be honest, the art of management has been developed more than anywhere else here in USA, and especially in California, because what we're trying to look into is how do you manage global projects where there are many intricate engineering questions and sensitive collaboration platforms, while at the same time stay competitive and especially considering the amount of espionage and theft of IPOs and all of that. So I would say we are very much ahead of everyone else in the world when it comes to managing corporations, even global international corporations, despite the fact that to us world still is here, USA.
Yep, that's great.
That's so interesting, because I was just going to ask you about distributed teams and leadership in distributed teams. And one thing that I find is once you start working in projects that are distributed across the globe, you start using software like Trello or Basecamp or something like that. But what's interesting is that you hardly see that at all in university curricula. And so it sounds like what you're doing is address the gap and giving people tools.
Yes, to be honest, again, universities are having their own issues. Usually universities are faculty-centric. And who is a faculty? Usually someone with a PhD who's been teaching a particular course, believing in a course of action, that does not necessarily adhere to the fast-changing place that we're living in, which things are fast-changing before you even notice it. I mean, as soon as you even invest in a particular technology, you see the next one is coming. Even the keystone players, where they determine who should do what, have opted to open their sources and make it more available to everyone to keep up with the fast pace of change.
So true. And so I'm interested in how that ties in to what you've done over the last year, which is to develop a personal plan or program for
these are actually two different areas. I mean, the one that we are really more interested right now to work on is making sure that our students are equipped with the latest and what's the requirement of the workplace, where the personal roadmap development was developed by me mainly to allow people to find happiness and to have success. Now, success, happiness, subjective well-being, these are issues very much subjective to a person. Now, you have brothers and sisters or even brothers who from the same family see success differently. The value of money, the value of job, the value of security. Even millennials have a different sense of us, the young, the old young ones, meaning the baby boomers. So the issue, how do you objectify something that is so subjectively unique to an individual? That was the issue I worked for about a decade on, and that is totally a different story. Now I'm trying to integrate that into a center we have just recently defined here at the university called the Center for Human Excellence, in which we are trying to see how do you consider individual as part of a whole without forcing that individual into an alienation, which seems to be the course of events when it comes to people. People don't feel loyalty, they're not loyal to any particular organization. And because companies feel that they don't have that competitive edge, let's say when they are competing with an Indian company or a Chinese company, so we're trying to see how can we bring the individual back to be the center of attention and allow an individual while working to have a sense and a notion of what it means to be successful.
That's actually really good because a lot of times, especially in the sciences, they don't really talk about that. It's the hard science. It's whatever you need to learn. I was an engineering major as well, then wound up in IT and wound up in business as well. So just, you go from one type of person to another, and they don't always get along. They don't always work together well. And yet they all want to be happy. And like you said, happiness is very specific to one person. We can share some mutual happinesses, but that doesn't mean everybody's going to be happy about the same thing. And that does affect careers and outlooks and everything else. Yeah, it's sort of interesting. When you were saying that, I was thinking it starts probably with family, and then from there, breakdown of family, and then from there, jobs and how jobs. And in the U.S., we've been a little cold in the way we treat employees. They tend to be not considered as, even though we talk about everybody's our most important asset, that's not the way they act. And so that's part of the issue. The corporate cultures are very different in some places. They claim they love people, but not really. They're useful as necessary, and then they move on. So it's interesting. That's why your plan sounds interesting, because you're approaching it not only from the business point of view and the scientific one, but also from the individual point of view. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. In reality, what's happening and what we are facing, everything seems to be just politically correct.
Mm-hmm.
The word love, the word caring, the word loyalty, these things are just being used. But in reality, when you drive in a heavy traffic and you look into faces, you seem like you're looking into automatons.
Yes.
Just automatons. That's why so many people like to watch zombie movies, right? Right?
There's a relationship there.
It seems like the individuality is sort of gone.
Mm-hmm.
When you ask someone a question, say, "Why are you doing that?" It says everyone. So it says that when someone says everyone does it, that means I don't know. So individuality, even though this is the nation of individuality, seems to be under attack.
Yes.
And again, this employment at will. People don't feel well. People feel alienated. People feel that they don't belong. And major corporations, what they tell you is make sure that people have 120% work on their workload. So they never get a chance to even think. What they expect us to do is not really good for USA, not good for the health of corporations. And we see today people are going back to India, finding the Indian way.
Mm-hmm.
We are failing when it comes to competing against the Chinese, and even Vietnamese are doing much better. And it seems like something's missing here. So obviously, that's one of the biggest and most important aspects of how we look at education. Especially because we are very much focused on the disadvantaged in here. And we're trying to make sure that they get a good education. And first thing we pay attention to is their well-being. As a matter of fact, I was just preparing a video. I haven't yet made it. I can share with you just what I was seeing the world is going to, if you're interested. It's not a complete set, but I can share with you the presentation on that particular.
Yeah, that would be great. Yes.
Is that okay? So let me
Yes.
share with you this particular. Can you see this?
Yes.
Now you see. Now that on top, what you see is a human being being two-layered removed from the reality. So let me see why this one is not acting properly. I should have started here, so I'll do it again. So you see, it seems like we are two-layered removed from the physical world. It seems like we as individuals, meaning a human being, usually that was the case. Us, meaning human being, the world, and guess what? The work. From day one, we're born, I guess, to work. And I don't mean to remind you of Matrix, the movie, but in reality, when you look at the individual, we're spiritual beings that have a capability to be able to be intellectually active and have a rational mind, which we can compare ourselves to others, compare people in other countries. So this ability to be able to rationalize, and obviously, yes, we are mammals. We like it or not, we are emotional. And as an emotional being, this is a complex being that is being really mistreated nowadays in this modern world. So it used to be just man and the world. And we're talking about at the time of hunters and gatherers, at the time that man and the world faced one another. And that's where everything was sacred. We felt everything has spirit in it, from stones to mountains to elephants to whatever. And then, unfortunately or fortunately, we're born as mammals. Hence, we were part of a community in which we made sense, and our meaning making was a byproduct of how, as a group, as collectives, we thought, which created what we call culture. So an individual within a set of cultural standards and norms makes meaning. And as such, that culture is how you see the world. So we don't see the world naked, but we see the world through a lens of culture. So our perception, our way of meaning making really is very much a byproduct of the culture in which we live in. And hence you see all this generational gap. And that wasn't bad enough that then we saw the first industrial revolution where mechanical devices came in. Now we had the power of the steam, we had the steam engines, we were able to create more production, work harder, more efficient, and then we started with Fordism, and here the world started becoming sort of modern. And then obviously after that, electrical revolution, which really was the industry 2.0, which really what it did, it not just made us more powerful, but made it much faster at the speed of electricity. And it was then and there where suddenly things changed and we became part of a machine. We became part of a line of production. And then we faced at 1970s the next revolution, which is the third revolution, which we call Industry 3.0 or the digital revolution, where now we had computers helping us and computer driven, such as robots and machines that were automated helping us. And that again turned us into, and we're talking about the millennials do not understand what this means. Like when I went to university in 1978, it's the beginning of these issues. And today, we are dealing with a virtual world. People sitting next to each other, and how do they talk to one another? Through their mobile phone. You take your child to an amusement park, and what is the child doing? Playing video games on his, especially usually the mother's mobile phone, and the mother is really riding the rides, right? So in reality, we are 2 layers removed from the physical world. This new world, the artificial virtual world, has taken us away. Today, not just we work with a computer, we might work for a computer. So it's a very, very, very strange world that we are looking at. And again, this in itself could be something we can discuss for a long time before this thing gets crazy. Let me stop sharing and be able to see you.
Yeah, those are actually great points, because
yes,
I think as humans we are becoming alienated from the technology. Technology is moving so quickly we can't mentally assimilate it fast enough, and that causes a dysfunction probably among people. But I like your approach. I like you're clarifying a simple problem that's not so simple, and it's we're all wondering, where are we heading? What's going to happen? How do we get around that? How do we keep ourselves from becoming the machine? It's a little scary sometimes, and we're all technicians. We're all involved in tech. We've been involved in science and tech and computers and IT. It's changing a lot, and I've seen it. I'm a little older than you are, but I've seen it since '72 when I went to college. Where we are now and where we're going, it's very different.
Well, here's a thought. Okay, so here's an example. Sunday I was to go to, and so person I'm going with, she hasn't been before, and she goes, "Oh, I can't use Google Maps or anything. And like, what am I going to do? My phone won't work, and the Wi-Fi, I won't be able to. How will I live without Google Maps to get around Beijing?" I thought, wow. I mean, okay, you can go, but it's interesting to me how many times, if somebody's driving, they know the area, but they privilege Google Maps over what they're seeing with their own eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And so we tend to believe the machine before we even believe ourselves, or not the machine, the computer, basically.
And that's the unfortunate fact, especially for the millennials. I mean, as I said, we, the baby boomers, still have a sense of what it means to be real, for as much as reality means anything. But today, I mean, you drive through a city and you never see the city because the lady in the telephone tells you what to do. You're so much busy with your Siri or whatever that lady's name is to tell you to turn right here, go left, stop, move, so much so that we actually don't experience the world anymore. We are experiencing Google Maps. I mean, ain't that funny? To a point that we really don't know what's happening. Before you know it, you're driving for 2 hours, you never see a building anymore.
No.
You're so much fixated on that screen, and your car nowadays talk to you. Even the car tells you when to stop. I mean, my God, very
exactly.
And these are the questions we're facing. But remember the movie called Dune?
Yes.
There were big, huge worms would come out. In reality, I think this giant of technology, and everyone was afraid of it, right? The worm would come out and kill everyone, and except those who learn how to ride that worm. Remember that those green eyes, and they were the future. In reality, I believe technology is scary if you let it scare you.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be able to understand what technology is capable of, and don't allow technology. And there are many good forces working to bring technology into where people can deal with. We are in a process of bringing technology from its mumbo jumbo and decode it so the regular Joe can use it, so we can understand it and don't be fascinated by its intricacies, but yet know what can it do for me. Now, technology in itself is not a scary thing. Even this artificial intelligence, I don't know if you guys heard or not, it was a couple of years ago, an artificial intelligence gave birth to another artificial intelligence without any human help. Now, that's happening, but is that scary? Not really. But what is scary is people being complacent. What is scary is people not standing for what their job is, meaning to adapt to ever-changing environment, not to empowering themselves, to be able to not just understand it, but also manage it, control it, assimilate it. So there is a reason a grandchild, 3 years old, can better manage a remote control than a grandma. And that reason is not because they were born better, just the grandma was complacent.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, we don't have that luxury of not learning. We don't have that luxury of being complacent. We do need to go back. I don't care how many steps you need to go back. First, to know you don't know what you don't know, but be cognizant of that fact. And then when you realize there are things you don't know and you should know, then that's where the whole journey starts. There's a young, inquisitive individual within each one of us. Let it come out. Let the child within explore. Otherwise, you will find yourself archaic. I mean, that's the only way, and that's how we're empowering people, telling them that it's not that difficult. Let us explain it to you. Let us first tell you that there are things you're ignorant of, and you don't know what you don't know. But let me tell you, first, you don't want to know everything you don't know, but there are certain things you better know. So to be a good citizen, so to be able to function better. And then from there, take it step by step to make them master of their own life again in view of this new technology. I am a very positive individual when it comes to evaluating technology and what it can do for us. But the question is, how do we educate? And that's really the goal of our educational system here at California Miramar University, in which we are empowering people. We cater to these individuals, and we say to them, to all of them, that we're your servants. We are here to serve you as the messengers of this new coming. So don't be afraid. Let us help you, and you'll see it's much easier than you can imagine. Because if it was not easy, it would not be called technology, it was called science. Technology, it has to be easy for people to use it. If it's not dummified enough, people won't buy it. So don't be scared. That's the whole message.
But there is something, I mean, okay, the unintended consequences and learning things that we had no idea we would learn. I mean, I think that one of the things that we have to do emotionally is prepare ourselves for the unexpected. For example, today I was talking to some guys that are involved in a project to preserve the rainforest and also help the environment by detecting when people are sabotaging pipelines. So it's working with the National Oil Company, but they're using drones and LiDAR. And I was thinking, okay, would I really like to be involved in that one? What are they going to see that they may not want to know about once they're able to penetrate the foliage? And I mean, I don't know.
It's just like before, let's say you came from a village and you went to a very complex metropolitan city. It was very difficult. People could take you as a dumbfounded individual right there, a simpleton. Now, it took a few times for someone to take advantage of you to learn, oh, don't do that. Today, I believe there are certain minimal skill set that every one of us need to have when it comes to the cyber world, to what technology can do, so we are not taken for a ride. So if we receive an email, to understand that there are ways of being able to deal with it, to know what it means to have a virus on your device, to know what it means to have an antivirus, to know that nothing comes for free. If someone's giving you a freebie, maybe there is a Trojan horse and issues like that. It's not that difficult. It's just a different buzzword, and it's a different vocabulary in which we should not. Being afraid is the worst thing one can do. You have to be receptive to change and allow yourself to understand without needing to really make sense of things, because it used to be that we were certain. To be honest, what are you certain of anyways? There is nothing to be certain of. We're not even certain of making it till tomorrow, right? What is this certainty that we've been sold? What is it that, dear Newton tried to sell us, that we live in a mechanical, machine-based world, that we can explain everything? There is nothing you can explain. We need to be adaptive, we need to be open to change, and we need to take it with open arm. I think that's the only way, and that's what we're trying to do in our educational system as well. That's why the old schools will not continue being. That's why in 5 years' time, I don't think anyone's going to pay for a bachelor degree. I don't care what you're called.
I agree with you on that. And you mentioned the one word that unfortunately is used everywhere in the media, politicians. It's all about fear. Because if you're afraid, you won't function well. And that becomes control, and population control is something that politicians love to do. But it is about fear, and that they're not teaching people common sense. They're not teaching them critical thinking in the universities at all anymore. So as a result, people go through university work, they graduate and know nothing. And we've had our share that we've interviewed throughout the years, and you just go, how did you make it through school? And what did you learn? Nothing. Okay, good. And they think, and they're told by the school, you're going to make $200,000 a year when you graduate. Really? That's nice. Good for you. Let me know how that goes. And most of them are on welfare. You just got something's wrong there. So we obviously need more presidents like you running universities who have a good foundation in being human, being alive, and understanding what our roles are. And like you said, the role hasn't really changed that much. It's the way we look at the role, the way the role takes us over if we let it.
And the new culture, I mean, to be honest, you go back to the 1700s, I mean, people didn't have much, but they lived. Today we have a lot, but somehow it seems like we don't live. Like what has happened, I'm not against consumerism, but if you read The Fable of the Bees by Mandeville, I mean, he said it. It seems like we are left with two choices, and I don't believe these are the case. I'm more Adam Smith kind of person. We need to realize that fear is the worst thing that can happen. Never be afraid, because fear doesn't do anything for you. Worry doesn't either. You need to understand and take the first step of accepting what it is. Don't fight it, and don't let people take advantage of your so-called ignorance. I don't care what you want to learn. If you're willing to ask the question, I mean, before it used to G meant God. Today G means Google. So Google it. It's not that difficult. Just write whatever comes to your mind, and you'll be amazed how many people are talking about it. Like people who might be watching this particular podcast. I mean, just do it. Don't worry. Worrying, being afraid, thinking you're not good. Don't forget, you only have you. You're the perfect you. Now you might be better if you want to, but don't you let anyone tell you that you can't do it or you can't understand. That's not the case. Don't buy into that complacency.
That's so great, and
and
I don't know if it's any of the Da Vinci exhibits where they the machines have come to LA, but had a chance to see them in Denver, and it struck me that Da Vinci, even though he was being persecuted, never allowed himself to be dominated by fear. He actually channeled that and became more determined to be creative.
And he was quite a visionary.
Yes.
It's pretty amazing. Well, that music says our time is up for now. Ali, we'd love to have you come back on and share some more and talk about some of the other things you do.
Absolutely.
We're just touching the surface. Yeah, we're not afraid to have you back on. How's that?
Oh, thank you. That sounds like a great idea.
I like that.
Anyway, thank you so much, guys. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Our pleasure. And we wish you the best. And if anybody wants to get a hold of you, do they contact you through the university?
Yes, I'm at your service, as I'm at the service of all of our students here. Consider me a servant ready to serve.
That sounds great.
Wonderful.
And we'll put your information below for the university that can get a hold of you. And thank you again for coming on and sharing. It's refreshing. So
thank you so much.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Dear. Bye-bye.
And we'll see you all next week. Have a good one, everyone. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.